Did you know that the threat of a TikTok ban in the USA has been spread over three different presidential administrations? The first was the first Trump administration, the second was the Biden administration, and now the third is the second Trump administration. And as of the recording of this, the TikTok ban has been halted for 75 days for ByteDance to find a buyer in the United States. Now, who knows? Perhaps things have changed since the recording of this video. But let's review and see what Wikipedia has to say on Wiki Review Weekly History. Let's go. On Wiki Review Weekly History, we select a historical topic that happened this week in history, and we read through the Wikipedia article and then assess if the Wikipedia article is accurate and academically sound. Afterwards, we spin the wheel to find out what next week's topic is going to be. If you like us, please like and subscribe to this channel and follow us on Patreon at Wiki Review Weekly. Let's go. The short-form video hosting service TikTok has been under a de jure nationwide ban in the United States since January the 19th, 2025, due to the U.S. government's concerns over potential user data collection and influence operations by the government of the People's Republic of China. Now, the ban took effect on ByteDance, the Chinese-based parent company of TikTok, when they refused to sell the service before the deadline of the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary-Controlled Applications Act. Or, it's called PAFACA, PAFACA. That is the worst abbreviation. It's supposed to make it easier, not better. But okay, the PAFACA Act. And prior to the ban, individual states, cities, universities, and government-affiliated devices had actually already restricted TikTok. Now, in 2020, President Donald Trump proposed, I can't say President Donald Trump. I hate saying that phrase. It's awful to the ear. Anyway, the current president of the United States proposed a ban of the app as he viewed it as a national security threat. In August, he signed an executive order instructing that ByteDance divest from the app, and though the order was blocked by a court injunction in September, it was reversed by the Biden administration in 2021. However, in 2024, last year, PAFACA was proposed in Congress due to alleged security concerns and pro-Palestinian bias. The bill was passed by Congress and signed into law by President Joe Biden, setting a deadline for the app to be banned unless a qualified disinvestment was made before then. And following a legal challenge from TikTok, the law was upheld by the Supreme Court. However, on January 18th, 2025, the day before the deadline of the law, TikTok suspended its services in the USA. The following day, after President-elect Trump signaled that he would grant an extension to TikTok after being inaugurated, services were restored. And on the 20th of January, the first day of his term, Trump signed an executive order that halted enforcement of the ban for a 75-day period while his administration pursued a potential sale of TikTok to American owners. Now, during the first Trump administration from 2017 to 2021, it started in December 2019 that the U.S. Army and Navy banned TikTok on government devices, as the Department of Defense had labeled it as a security risk. Now, before the policy change, Army recruiters had been using the platform to attract young people. Unofficial promotional videos continued to be posted on TikTok under personal accounts, and it drew the ire of government officials, but they also helped boost the number of enlistees, and several accounts had millions of views and millions of followers. But in 2020, the U.S. government announced that it was considering banning the Chinese social media platform TikTok upon request from Donald Trump, who was then the President of the United States, number 45, who viewed the app as a national security threat. The result was that the parent company of TikTok, ByteDance, which had initially planned on selling a small portion of TikTok to an American company, agreed to divest TikTok to prevent a ban in the USA and in other countries where restrictions were also being considered due to privacy concerns, which they themselves mostly related to in ownership by being a firm based in China. Now, TikTok later announced plans to file legal action challenging the order's transactional prohibitions with U.S. companies. The lawsuit against the Trump administration's order was actually filed on August the 24th, 2020, with TikTok arguing that the order was motivated by Trump's efforts to boost re-election support through protectionist trade policies aimed at China. A separate suit filed the same day by TikTok's U.S. technical programmer Patrick Ryan against Trump and the Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross sought a temporary restraining order, arguing that due process rights were violated and the ban was an unconstitutional taking of Ryan's properties under the Fifth Amendment. The suit also claimed that Trump's actions was likely retaliation sparked by pranks against a Trump campaign rally that were organized through TikTok videos. Wow. I mean, that sounds about right from his actions, doesn't it, though? It sounds about right. Well, the American technology company Microsoft had previously proposed the idea to acquire TikTok's algorithm and make artificial intelligence technology, but this was declined by ByteDance as its executives expressed concern that would likely be opposed by the Chinese government, which in turn had criticized the Trump administration's order as a smash and grab for sale. And on September 13, 2001, ByteDance suggested that it would prefer the shuttering of U.S. operations over such a sale. Moving on to the Biden administration from 2021 to 2025, on June the 9th, 2021, the Biden administration issued Executive Order 14034, protecting Americans' sensitive data from foreign adversaries, EO 14034, and it overturned 3 executive orders signed by Trump. Executive Order 13942, 13943, and 13971. Oof, so bureaucratic. Anyway, despite revoking these executive orders, the Biden administration 14034 called upon other federal agencies to continue a broad review of foreign-owned applications set to continuously inform the president of the risk that the applications pose to personal data and national security. The White House said that the Biden administration is committed to promoting an open, interoperable. Ooh, that's me and my pronunciation again, man. Well, anyway, I'm going to continue on. Reliable and secure internet, protecting human rights online and offline, and supporting a vibrant global digital economy. Now, in December 2022, Senator Marco Rubio and Representatives Mike Gallagher and Raha Krishnamurthy. Oh, I'm sorry, Raha. I think I butchered your name, honey. Ooh. Well, they introduced the Averting the Threat of Internet Surveillance, Oppressive Censorship and Influence, and Algorithmic Learning by the Chinese Communist Party Act. And wow, another great abbreviation here, the Anti-Social CCP Act. And this would prohibit Chinese and Russian-owned social networks from doing business in the USA. Now, on December 30th, 2022, President Joe Biden signed the No TikTok on Government Devices Act, prohibiting the use of apps on devices owned by the federal government, with some exceptions. Days after the Biden administration called on ByteDance, which owns TikTok, to sell the platform or face a ban, law enforcement officers disclosed that an investigation into TikTok was taking place. Now, on March 17th, 2023, the U.S. States Department of Justice, the DOJ, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, officially launched an investigation of TikTok, including allegations that the company spied on American journalists. Now, on January the 25th, 2023, Missouri Senator Josh Hawley introduced a bill to ban the platform nationwide. After Xiaozhe Chu, the CEO of TikTok, testified before the U.S. House of Representatives, Hawley's attempt to force a vote on this bill in the Senate was blocked on March 29th, 2023, when Kentucky Senator Rand Paul objected. Now, in February and March of 2023, the Data Act and the Restrict Act were both introduced to the House of Representatives and the Senate. And the Data Act, introduced on February 24th by Michael McCaul, aimed to ban selling non-public personal data to third-party buyers. Good. Now, on March 7th, Senator Mark Warner introduced the Restrict Act. If passed, that would give the Secretary of Commerce authority to review business transactions made by IT service and product vendors tied to designated foreign adversaries, if they present an undue threat to national security and have more than 1 million active users in the USA. The legislation would allow for the enforcement of orders and other mitigation measures, which would include mandatory divestment or being prohibited from doing business in the United States. Several officials subsequently cited alleged pro-Palestinian biases on the app. Well, while advocating for a ban, Representative Mike Gallagher alleged rampant pro-Hamas propaganda on the app, and senators like Mitt Romney, Josh Hawley, Representative Mike Lawyer, and other Republicans have also alleged that TikTok had a pro-Palestinian bias, with lawyer even alleging that TikTok was being manipulated during the pro-Palestinian protest at colleges. And in a filing to the Supreme Court, TikTok's attorney said the allegations that TikTok had amplified support for either side of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict were actually unfounded. Now, on March 13th, 2024, which was last year, which is the reason why we are covering this week, the United States House of Representatives passed the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act, the PAFACA, with largely bipartisan support from Democrat and Republican Party representatives. Wow. I mean, I don't want to get too political on the channel, but I will say, like, the politics in America are quite a mess right now, and the fact that they could even, like, agree on anything, I'm like, TikTok was what you agreed on? Not in anything with inflation, but TikTok, that's what you're gonna come down on? I mean, I get it, but also I'm like, can we tackle inflation? That'd be a bit better, right, folks? But okay, it's fine. Let's not get too political on this. Let's continue onward. It would ban operations related to the app completely within the country unless ByteDance made a qualified disinvestment, blah 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 blah. Saying words real good today, right? Well, they needed to literally disband from the United States, like sell it, is essentially what they're trying to say. And after modifications, the House actually passed the act again. And the United States Senate, it went through there before it was signed into law by Joe Biden on April the 24th, 2024. The ban went into effect on January 19th, 2025, and an additional 90 days were issued on the deadline. Now, there is a legal challenge. It was called TikTok versus Garland. It's 604 USA in 2025. It was a USA Supreme Court case brought by ByteDance and TikTok on the constitutionality of Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act, based on the Freedom of Speech Clause of the First Amendment and the Bill of Attainder Clause of Article 1, Section 9, and the Due Process Clause and Taking Clause of the Fifth Amendment. Whew! Legal jargon, my goodness. Those are quite some names. Well, the case was consolidated with Firebaugh versus Garland, which was a lawsuit filed by the TikTok content creators against the law. Now, citing national security concerns, the U.S. Congress in April 2024 passed FAFCA, which prohibits the hosting and distribution of acts determined by the president to present a significant national security threat if they are made by social media companies owned by foreign nationals or parent companies from countries designated as U.S. foreign adversaries unless such companies are disinvested from the foreign entities. The law specifically named Chinese company ByteDance Ltd. And TikTok as foreign adversary control. The deadline for their disinvestment was January the 19th, 2025. ByteDance, of course, they sued the federal government following its passage, asserting that the law violated the First and Fifth Amendments, and a panel of judges from the U.S. District of Columbia Circuit Court of Appeals unanimously rejected the company's claims about the constitutionality in law in December 2024, and they declined to grant a temporary injunction while ByteDance sought an appeal from the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court granted, it's Latin, certiorari. Okay, I have to admit, I'm actually dyslexic, which is why I sometimes struggle with some of these words here. But this is Latin. It's spelled C-E-R-T-I-O. The 10th of 2025, 9 days before the law's disinvestment deadline. Now, the decision was reached on January 17, 2025, that the court ruled that the law was constitutional. Congress had shown that the law satisfies immediate scrutiny review on the concerns related to national security, which leads us to the shutdown of 2025. In January 2025, TikTok users began exploring options for a mass migration to other apps in the event that TikTok was to be banned. And on January 13th, many US TikTok users began downloading and switching to the Chinese app of RedNote, which is similar to Instagram and TikTok, to protest the ban. the hashtag TikTok refugee, and the term TikTok refugee went viral on RedNote, being used by both American and Chinese users. The app became mostly download free on the app became the most downloaded free app on the Apple App Store and gained millions of US users by January the 16th. RedNote moderators worked overtime to translate content into English and accommodate the influx of new users. And I'm sorry, I'm laughing so hard on this because what a backfire. Like, RedNote is literally run by the Chinese Communist Party. You've taken people off of TikTok and they're going to go to something that is way worse. You're not protecting the data. It's just, it just backfires. It's funny, it's bad, but it's funny. Well, on January 18th at 10:30 p.m., TikTok did temporarily suspend its services in the USA, and ByteDance did refuse to disinvest after that deadline. The app was removed from the Apple App Store and Google Play Store for users in the US, and it effectively banned it from being downloaded on most mobile devices. Users with the application still installed before this was deleted, they were receiving error messages informing them that the service was no longer accessible in the USA, and users visiting the website were shown a similar error message. Users were able to download their TikTok account data and sign in via a website, although all social functions such as uploading, watching, commenting, or viewing profiles were disabled, so essentially it was useless. And there were also some shutdowns on apps that were connected to ByteDance. These apps included Marvel Snap, Mobile Legends, Bang Bang, CapCut, Lemon8, and Tokopedia. I have not heard of any of those before, so I'm going to assume that they weren't nearly as popular as TikTok. Hours after the suspension of services took place, President-elect Trump indicated on Truth Social that he would issue an executive order on the day of his inauguration to extend the period of time before the law's prohibition took effect. At 12 p.m. on January 19th, TikTok began restoring its services. In a post on X, I'm just going to call it Twitter, formerly Twitter, they stated that Trump provided assurance to our service providers that they will face no penalties. And later, in January 19th, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson said, "I think we're going to enforce the law." Oh, okay. And that his expectation is that TikTok would begin to be available on app stores only after Trump forces a true divestiture, changing of hands and changing of ownership of TikTok from ByteDance to a U.S. company. Apple and Google blocked efforts from TikTok to restore the app on their app stores, and Senator Tom Cotton praised this, warning that companies that help maintain or distribute TikTok could face hundreds of millions of dollars of ruinous liabilities under the law. Now, from 2025 to the present, the president campaigned on promises of not banning TikTok despite his original opposition, so he flip-flopped. After his flip-flop, Trump's cabinet picks for the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, as well as most Republicans, remained in favor of banning the app. And Trump mentioned that after taking office, he would put pressure on a political resolution regarding the issue. Now, on January 20th, the first day of his second term, Trump signed an executive order that instituted a 75-day period of non-enforcement of PAFCA. The order also suggested that a liability shield would be provided to companies that provide services to TikTok during the time. Trump stated that his administration would work towards a deal for the United States to have a 50% ownership position in a joint venture, and based on the executive order, Acting Attorney General James McKinney sent letters to Apple, Google, and Oracle. On social media, Trump stated that his administration would work towards a deal for the United States to have a 50% position in a joint venture. Trump later ordered the creation of a sovereign wealth fund that he suggested could buy TikTok. And on January the 25th, negotiations were reported as being underway for a deal that would entail a takeover of TikTok's U.S. operations by Oracle and American investors, addressing national security concerns with a decision that would be expected within 30 days. ByteDance would retain a stake while Oracle would manage data and software updates. And near the start of February, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance and National Security Advisor Michael Waltz was announced as being in charge of negotiating a potential TikTok sale. Really? Okay. Okay. U.S. Attorney General Plan Bodie sent letters to tech companies promising that they would not face fines for hosting TikTok and other ByteDance apps during that time, promoting Apple and Google to restore these apps to their app stores on February 13th. Now, there has been a wide variety of reactions to all this backlash against TikTok. TikTok said the company takes regular action against covert influence networks and it has more than 150 elections globally behind it. ByteDance is incorporated in the Cayman Islands while TikTok Inc. is incorporated in California and Delaware, and it says 60% of ByteDance is owned by global institutional investors. And on May the 7th, 2024, ByteDance and TikTok filed a lawsuit in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia to overturn PAFCA. In March 2024, a spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the People's Republic of China said PAFCA was putting the U.S. on the opposite side of the principle of fair competition and international economic and trade rules. You know, I'm not one for agreeing with China, and I do think that TikTok is probably doing some shady stuff with all of our data and everything. But that being said, I swear to God, Visa is leaking my data every 3 seconds, and as well as so many American-owned companies. I'm kind of like, okay, so this one is owned by China, and that's making you mad, and it feels a bit biased that it's just because it's owned by China. That's what it feels like. It feels like they're going after TikTok because it's so big and it's owned by China and young people like it. That's what it feels like to me from this. But that being said, I don't think what they're doing to our data is good. I'm not on TikTok's side necessarily, but I do think that, yeah, there's definitely some political bias going in here. Anyway, content creators were very upset. They described concerns about how they would make their living should a ban take effect. Following the passing of PAFCA, 8 TikTok content creators sued the United States government on May 14th, 2024 in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit in an effort to overturn the act. The choice of venue was due to a provision in the act making it the exclusive jurisdiction for legal challenges of the act. There was also lots of criticism. Bans and attempted bans in the United States have drawn objections citing hypocrisy, protectionism, and not addressing other user data privacy in general. Lawmakers making allegations against TikTok failed to mention that the USA itself surveys non-US nationals under Section 702 of FISA. These types of data collected by TikTok are also collected by other social media platforms and sold through brokers to private buyers and reportedly government agencies as well without oversight. This is what I'm talking about. That just should not be allowed across the board. So why is it only TikTok being banned here? This is ridiculous. Anyway, some researchers from the Citizen Lab and from the Center of Strategic and International Studies stated that user information in general should be protected, not just focusing on one platform. Thank you. Anyway, critics have also labeled a potential ban on the app as an assault of freedom of speech, including Republican Congressman Rand Paul and Thomas Mazie. Oh, wow, wow, I did not expect that from them. Cool. Observers have argued that the national security concerns are largely hypothetical. There is insufficient public evidence to show that American user data has been assessed by or shared with the People's Republic of China government, with some claims reportedly exaggerated. Biden himself was on TikTok as the president, while Trump had reversed his previous position. Lawmakers against the bill said the process was quickly rushed. Computer security specialist Bruce Schneider has argued that which company owns TikTok may be irrelevant since, for example, Russia still interfered in the 2016 U.S. elections using Facebook without owning it. Congressional advocates for a ban have stated that the platform suggests an anti-Israeli bias, arguing that manipulation justifies a nationwide ban. Analysis from Vox countered this argument, stating that support for the Palestinian cause has been growing among younger generations, who make up the majority of TikTok users, even before October 7th and the Hamas-led attack on Israel. That's quite founded, yeah. Analysts argued that the popular videos in the app in support of Palestinians or criticizing the Israeli government were likely an accurate reflection of beliefs shared by the majority of users using the platform. Whew. There are a lot of layers to this. This is actually where the Wikipedia article ends. And next, we're going to go over some citations, but I'm going to do the citations a little bit differently than I normally do because The majority of citations here are based on news networks, and I want to take a little bit closer of a look at citations that are associated with news networks. So stick around, and we will be coming to the citation section in just a moment. Hi everyone, if you like what you heard today, then I would really appreciate if you could like and subscribe to our channel. We have a goal to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to do it, so please hit those buttons below, like us, subscribe us, share us with your friends. And if you want to help us out in another way, you can check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/WikiReview. I am an academic researcher, a performing artist, and a visual artist. If you would like to support me by supporting some of my art, please go onto my Etsy store. I have a link for my Etsy store above, as well as a few pictures of some of the work that I've done. In fact, one of my paintings is hanging up right behind me. It's my favorite painting of an owl, and I'll put an image of that up on the screen. So by all means, please like and subscribe our channel, consider supporting us on Patreon or me on Etsy, and let's continue. All right, it's time for the citation part where I am going to rate if this Wikipedia article is academically sound. The Wikipedia article is on the restrictions on TikTok in the United States. Now, I'm doing this a little bit differently because the thing is with this video is that this has only happened 1 year ago and everything is very current events. So almost every single source that you see on here, and I'm scrolling through some of the sources on the screen if you're not watching the screen or if you're listening via podcast. The thing is they're all done by different news media sources. And that tracks because we're not going to have a book on TikTok ban 1 year out. We may have an academic article out there. There might be one buried in here, but you're mostly going to have news sources. And so I wanted to talk about evaluating news sources and being able to separate news sources from propaganda, because we have a lot of different bias in our news, and I think it's getting harder and harder to be able to sort through fact from fiction, especially with the rise of infotainment. It's like news entertainment rather than having actual journalistic standards. And that's become a very big problem, I think, in society overall. And I don't have any sponsors for this video, but man, if you had an app called like Ground News, it actually is able to go through different sources where you can choose, you can actually sort through different sources that are leaning left, leaning right, and leaning in the middle. It can even give you breakdowns of like who owns the news sources. And I think something like that would be very important to have when you're evaluating sources for an article such as this, because you're getting everything from Fox News to local news stations to CNN to BBC and the New York Times. And it's really hard to be able to sort through something like this whenever you are stuck in your own media bubble. And it's just important to always fact check. Because especially nowadays, it feels a lot to me that you can't just go to the news and just be like, yes, everything they are telling me on this so-and-so website is going to be completely accurate. You have to check out these facts yourself to make sure that what they're saying is the truth and it's not skewed. I mean, even on here, like source number 50, this is in Chinese. I don't read Chinese. I don't know anything about that particular source. I wouldn't be able to assess that. I would have to actually like get a translation of that particular source. This is a source number 50. And be able to read it in English and then look up the facts myself. And that's an extremely difficult thing to do. Now, that being said, this article, it was a relatively long article, but you could see there are hundreds of sources and hundreds of different news things, 162 sources to be exact, that link back to different articles from different news sources. So I would say for accuracy, this particular article seemed to focus more on the events taking place and did not come off as opinionated. I mean, any opinions you heard or thought you heard, that was definitely me and my standing from what I'm reading. That was not in the Wikipedia article itself. So I would say this was actually probably 8 out of 10 for accuracy, because it was giving me dates, it was giving times, it was giving names about people who did things, and those could be checked. Those can be fact checked. However, I want to say if you're going and you're listening to the news, you do need to look up the facts yourself. It's becoming harder and harder this day and age, and I hope that things will be getting better in the future when it comes to news reporting. But yeah, so that was our TikTok article. Stick around. We are going to spin the wheel, and we're going to see what type of topic we are going to be covering next week in history. All right, I have pulled up the wheel, and let's see what the topic is going to be for next week. Let me spin it. Oh, a disaster. We will be covering a disaster next week in history. So stick around next week to find out what disaster we will be featuring. Bye. Hi everyone, it's your host Kaylee, and this is one of my cats. His name is Creon, and we would like to ask you if you could please like and subscribe to Wiki Review Weekly. It would make me and my cat Creon very happy. The pets of our house, they're always around behind the scenes. You don't normally see them on camera, but you can see them on camera because now they are putting out YouTube shorts. So if you want to see any of our shorts that include my dog or any of the 3 cats, such as this one, they would love it if you would like and subscribe. Now, I gotta go because this cat, he wants to get out of my arms and he wants to eat. And again, he wants you to like and subscribe. So please, like and subscribe at Wiki Review Weekly. Thank you all. Bye. Be free! Help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers by liking and subscribing to our channel. Also, check us out at patreon.com/wikireviewweekly. See you next week.